All right, we're on to our last section for this module. It's called Select and Recruit First Line Managers. So let's take a look at what a first line manager actually is responsible for. What do they do? What is their function? So one of the first things is to assign tasks. So they give out tasks, they give out responsibilities to people within their team. They manage the workflow, so certain things have to be done, and obviously that needs to be managed, and so they manage the flow of work to their team and the output that they're responsible for. They monitor the quality of work to make sure that everything is up to the right specification. They deal with the employee problems within their immediate team, and then they keep the middle management and executive management informed of problems and successes at the ground level of the company. Now, this is so important because we need to know what is happening at ground level in order to make better objectives and better goals going forward. We need to hear the concerns of the floor level in order for us to make better decisions at a higher level. So that's really what they are responsible for. What do they do? Well, the way that we set up a job profile. So we take a look at a first line leader, and then we're going to create a spec of this job. So how do we do that? We watch them. We see what they do. What are their tasks? What are they responsible for? How do they operate? We take a look at them actually doing their job. We create observations, and that's how we know what is going into their job. We gather a bit of background information. We interview those people around them and ask, what do they do? Tell me a little bit about their job function. How do they manage their day? What are the tasks that are involved? Then we do a questionnaire. So we give them a questionnaire that gives them questions that they can fill in what they do, how they do it, what they're responsible for, and what is the flow of work. And then if that doesn't work, then we also say, okay, every single job that you do during the day, to make a note of it, make a diary or log it. So that's a way of us knowing exactly what they're responsible for, what their day consists of, and then we can put together a job profile. Because of that, we now know what the job is all about, what the profile of that job looks like, the specification of that job is. Now we're going to go ahead and start to build KPIs around that. KPIs stands for Key Performance Indexes. If people are able to stick to their KPIs, it means that everyone's going to win. The objectives will be reached, the goals will be reached, the vision of the company will be achieved if people stick to their key performance areas and do it up to the right standard. So let's take a look at what is in your KPIs. Well, there's something called a metric category. So is it in quality? Is it in production? Is it in cost? Is it in safety? Those are the areas where the metrics are put together. Then we put together a metric name, then a unit of measure. Is it kilograms? Is it hours? Is it square foot or square meters? We need to work out what the unit of measure is. Then we need to calculate it. Okay, so that is the calculation, and then we're going to hold them to that spec. We need to make sure that we frequently are measuring. So how often are we measuring? Daily, weekly, monthly. We also have a measurement procedure. So we need to make sure that we measure it in the same way every time. Then there needs to be a weighting. So certain things are more important than other things. So we weight it according to its priority. We weight it according to its importance. We have a target value. So that's what we expect. That's the expectation. And then the last one is the threshold. So that is where it has to be. Any lower than that, and it's going to cause problems. And so it cannot be lower than the threshold. And that's how we know how to put together a KPI. All right, you'll see over here, here is an example of a KPI weighting. This person has got certain performance measures. This is the weighting to that, and this is their score. So you take times the weighting by the score, and you get what is known as a weighted average. You add them all together, and you divide them, and you get an average of the average. So this guy's a tech lead currently under results. He's getting a 3.95, very good with results. The problem is his behavior is not all that great. So you'll see there, they talk about different behaviors and the weighting of the behaviors. and he's not doing too well. He's only getting a 2.7 out of 5 for his behavior, but a 3.95. So technically he's strong. Behaviorally, he's not doing all that well. Okay, so let's take a look at how to bring a first line manager into your organization. The first thing that you need to do is you consult with the person who is recruiting, the person that is bringing someone in. Either it's internally, okay, so from your team moving up into a first line manager, or from the outside. And so you need to say, look, these are the KPIs. This is what I expect from the person. So build your spec around that KPI. And so your recruiter then will start to be led by you in terms of who to bring in. Once you've selected that pool, then you decide, okay, let's shortlist. So the first point of call is, how many people am I prepared to interview? Is it 5? Is it 10? We also need to look at things as, what is essential? Is it their qualification? Is it their experience? Is it their knowledge in certain things? Is it the behavior? Is it the attitude? What are the essential things that this person needs to have? Then what is desirable? So it's not essential, but it would be nice. And then you rank the candidates accordingly. So if you say we're going to interview 10, you look at the essentials, you look at the desirables, you prioritize them, you rank them, and you choose the top 10. And then you're going to start the interview process. Now, one way of being able to narrow this down a little quicker is to measure their competency. So sometimes we have interviews, or we have pre-interviews which have a performance evaluation. How good do they do their job? So maybe we put them into the situation, we see how they handle it, and that becomes a performance evaluation. We look at performance problems. So what problems have they had in the past? Can we work with that? Can we live with that? We need to decide. Then we do observation. We watch them in work, we watch them in action, and then we decide based on that. We have something called work samples. So we ask them to put something together. We take a look at the quality and the speed that they were able to bring it together. And then we decide, okay, is that acceptable or not? We can have interviews. So that's one of the common ones. We bring them in, we talk to them, we have certain questions, and that becomes our interview. We have questionnaires that we send them beforehand about what they feel, their attitudes, their biggest weaknesses, their biggest strengths, what did they find in previous jobs, and then we can make some sense of who they are and what they do. We have attitude surveys, what they call sort of psychometric tests to make sure that they are motivated. How do they cope under pressure? What kind of people are they? Are they positive? Are they problem solvers, or are they problem makers? And those attitude surveys are important. And then we have something called checklists or training progress charts. So we see how they've developed. Are they growing? Are they developing, or have they stagnated? If they're stagnating, well, then we've got a problem, because we need them to be constantly growing, constantly developing to become a new first line managers. And then we make a decision on the right candidate based on our interviews and work samples and observations and all that kind of thing. And then we're going to make them an offer. And so that will be the last stage. Yes, this is the person. We believe in what they do. They've got the essentials. We've seen them in work. We've interviewed them. That's the person I want. Now we've got to go and make them an offer. So your first formative, you're going to consider the interview process that you follow, especially in your organization, when you are going to recruit a new first line manager. Okay. Then I want you to do is, I want you to choose 5 interview questions that you would ask this person. Okay, in order to make sure that this was the right person for the job. So what 5 interview questions would you ask a potential candidate so that that would help you to arrive to your shortlist? Okay, so put together 5 interview questions. That's formative 4.1. The next one is our summative. So this is where you're going to go and ask someone to give me a profile for your first line managers. So go to your manager, go to your host manager, go to your HR manager and say, look, if I was to look at a profile for a first line manager, what would it look like? You then take that and you break it down. So the things that you're going to look at is, what are the key performance areas? They'll be shown on the metric for first line managers. So this is what a first line manager does. What are their key performance areas? Okay, so now based on that key performance areas, is it a qualification that is necessary? Is it experience that is necessary? Is it certain skills that are necessary? So what is the selection criteria for the performance area? Then we're going to give it a weighting. So is it 5% of the job? Is it 10% of the job? Is it 50% of the job? So based on the key performance area, give it a weighting. Remember, it all has to add up to 100%. Then who do you need to liaise with to ensure the requirements of the position are understood? So they might be reporting into the financial manager. You might need to speak to the financial manager so that you know the full aspect of what this person needs to do. So tell me who you need to liaise with in order to understand the requirements of the position. Okay, so there's 4 areas that you've got to fill in based on the job profile that you've received. Then briefly describe the interviewing, desk checking, and any other techniques that you have used to arrive at a shortlist of candidate. Give reasons for shortlisting one person and not another. So give me an idea of how you would actually go about interviewing. Would you make them do work samples? We had that whole list of observations, all those kinds of things. So what would you actually use in order to get to a short list of recruits? So you need to tell me what is the process that you would undertake in order to find out if this person is the right person for the job. Question 3. Question 3 would say, how would decisions be taken and offers be made to the selected first line manager to stay in line with the policies and procedures regarding recruitment at your workplace? So who makes the final decision? Is it your manager? Is it your HR manager? Is it the operations manager? Who makes the final decision, and how are offers made? Are they made in writing? Are they made telephonically? Do you offer it to someone, but then have someone as a plan B? Speak to your manager, speak to your HR manager, find out from them how decisions are taken and offers are made to the person that you would like to employ. And then the last one, question 4, you're going to write up a mock job offer based on that job profile. So write a little job offer that is specifically for a person that would be your first line manager. So give them an idea of what is expected, what are the responsibilities, what is necessary to do their job, what experience is required, what qualifications they would need, and then at the end of it, tell me how much they would earn and what kind of contract you're going to put in place. So question 4 is all about giving them an offer based on what you need for that first line manager. Right at the end, you're going to team up with another learner and you can complete a simulated feedback session. So you're going to give them this job offer. They look through this job offer and they're going to give you some feedback based on what you've just written. So you're going to team up with another learner, do the simulated feedback session, and that's going to be them marking you. And then remember, right at the end, everyone signs and everyone dates. Okay. So that's what you've got. That's the first section, 4.1, getting to your formative and then moving into your summative. All right, so I think I'm going to give you guys half an hour to put together your formative and your summative section. So remember, that's 4.1, summative 4.1, and then your simulated feedback session. Okay, so you've got all of that. It's going to take at least half an hour to do your formative and summative, and then give yourself another 10 minutes to do your simulated feedback session. All right, so everyone ready to do that? Give yourself 40 minutes and then go on to the next video.